Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to InnovFest X Elevating Founders Asia. It's an event hosted by NUS Enterprise in partnership with ATX Singapore. Topic of this panel discussion is leading the circular economy through innovations and partnerships. I welcome you again on behalf of all the panel members drawn from corporates, inexperienced airline industry, venture capital industry, and electronics industry. As a beginning, I will introduce myself. Today, I have 4 panelists who are highly accomplished in terms of sustainability. They are from CapitaLand Group, Singapore Airlines, Sistema Asia Capital, and Hitachi. After that, we will have a panel discussion in a couple of rounds, and finally, I would close the panel meeting. This is my introduction. I'm a senior professor named Siram Ramakrishna at the National University of Singapore. I also chair Circular Economy Task Force at the National University of Singapore. I'm an advisor to the Ministry of Sustainability and Environment, Singapore. I'm also a member of UNESCO expert group on UN SDG 2030. I also represent Singapore in the ISO committees related to circular economy and circularity. I was one of the initial founders of NUS Enterprise 20 years ago. I'm glad to see that NUS Enterprise has become stronger, bigger in its impact over the last 20 years. This year, they are focusing on circular economy and sustainability in line with the national trend as well as international trends. Now, I'd like to invite one of the 3 panel members, Mr. Chu Manpai, a senior manager. He runs the digital innovation labs called Chris Lab, Singapore Airlines. I would like to invite Manpai to share to the audience about himself as well as his organization for about 3 to 5 minutes. Manpai, please.
Thank you, Professor Siram. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone, wherever you're hearing this from. My name is Manpai. As Prof introduced, I lead Singapore Airlines Digital Innovation Lab, or Chris Lab. We are a team who are the collaboration drivers to bring our business units and our partners, startups, and research institutions together to solve short, medium, and long-term challenges the airline, the aviation sector, and the travel industry face. We also helped to grow a digital innovation culture within the company by implementing an experiential program to help our staff who submits idea to us to bring their ideas in a concept form to fruition, from prototype to POCs to implementation. So we are like a man in the middle between the internal BUs and the external solution providers. In Singapore Airlines, we do recognize that we have great talents within the company, but there are also a lot of great talents and potential disruptors and innovators also outside the company who can help us solve problems, whether they are in the universities or whether they are in the open innovation startup community. So in Singapore Airlines, we are very committed to a very important and urgent matter of sustainability. So we are committed. We put our commitment in writing, and you can see that on our website. and we publish our sustainability report every year. So we commit ourselves this year to be carbon neutral by 2050, and we have launched many initiatives over the recent years, including green package flights from San Francisco with sustainable fuel uplifted with new generation of aircrafts. We have tested and experimented with how we could fine-tune our logistics and procurement of sustainable fuel by collaborating with the Swedish airport for flights coming out of Sweden to Singapore. And recently we have introduced a brand new food packaging for economy class, so to enhance the ability to upcycle, recycle inside food waste. And we have worked with a number of startups in that area as well.
Thank you, Manpai, for your kind sharing about yourself as well as many years of contribution towards sustainability. I'd like to now request Edward from Sistina Capital. Tell us about your journey, your association with sustainability. Please.
Thank you very much, Prof. My name is Edward Daly. I'm the CEO for Sistema Asia Capital. Our parent group, Sistema Group, is listed in both London Stock Exchange as well as the Moscow Stock Exchange. And we are actually Fox 2000, having investments in many countries. And our special interest to today's forum is our investment in several areas. For example, we have a listed company, Echelon, that is actually listed in the London Stock Exchange. So this is a real estate development company. And we have been working very closely with them to actually help to reduce and to achieve many of the SDG goals. For example, how to reduce the wastage, how do we reduce the energy usage in the real estate area. And also we have a listed company over in New York Stock Exchange, that is the mobile carrier for MPS. And that company itself actually owns one of the largest 5G mobile network over in the Northern Europe, Russia area. And over there itself, our initiative is how to help not only just our users, but also many of our telecom clients who are in the enterprise space to actually reduce their energy consumption, optimize their broadbands and fibers, make use of new innovations that is housed under that business itself in order to achieve better goals. And also, recently, as early as December last year, we have just listed a e-commerce company over in Nasdaq. And that company itself has also an innovation house that actually allows close to about 15 million subscribers that we are serving over there itself. And we entice them with different tips in order to allow them to help to reduce, recycle many of the things that they are using. And with you, in Sistema Group itself, by being a strong advocate of sustainability, we are not only helping ourselves as a conglomerate, but I think more importantly, we are also helping to build a better world. And as we expand our businesses from Europe, US, Asia itself, actually we felt that there are many things that we can do. Building innovations not only starts from ourselves, but we can actually go into it in a form of partnerships. And later on, with the service, we will share a little bit more about it. And on the personal side, I myself has been a sustainability champion over the last 15 years. I spent many years based overseas, working in tech companies, Fortune 500 companies. And I'm especially proud to be part of the initiative whereby we are helping the China government to actually introduce SDG goals into their One Belt One Roads when they first started about 7 or 8 years. And somewhere around 5 years of active blogging, we managed to introduce some basic SDG goals into the senior echelons of the Chinese government. And so much so, over the last 24 months, it is very heartening to see that China actually launched a 2060 net carbon zeros initiatives. I think this is really very heartwarming for myself because China's being in Asia is a massive consumption of energies and materials, and they have right now the second largest GDP in the world itself, with more than about 20 populations globally. And if they have a aim that they are pursuing with publicly, I think this is only good for all of us because only by working together with everyone, whether they are from different races, different religions, or different nationalities, only by working together, that only then we can actually achieve bigger goals. And it's only through innovations and partnerships and working behind strong leaders like Professor Surams and the team that he's leading, we can actually help to optimize many of the initiatives we are doing together. And on my personal side, a few years ago, I actually co-founded an NGO for the Asian Sustainability Forum. And that forum itself actually helps to disseminate best practices in engineering, in architectures, in businesses. And we are actually doing so across all academias, including with the United Nations. And we have actually brought in many volunteers, especially those in the millennials, because this world actually belongs to them. And we need to bring in more and more young people as we go forward in this fight. Thank you.
Thank you, Edward Tay, for highlighting your contributions and your organization's contributions. Also underscoring importance of young minds, involving them in sustainable thinking. You also highlighted the importance of partnerships. These are music to our ears, and we hope to come back to you during the panel session. Right now, I'd like to invite our next esteemed panel member, Dr. Gerald Hain, Senior Executive for APAC, General Manager for Corporate Strategy, Hitachi Asia. He would introduce himself as well as Hitachi for the next few minutes. Gerald, please.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much, Professor Siram. So my name is Guinness Gerald. It's Hane, and I've been in the innovation area now for about 4 decades, working initially with a U.S. National Energy Lab as a researcher, and then in policy with the government for some time, and then with ventures, and then with some larger corporations, including the one I'm with now, which is Hitachi, where I work as a general manager for corporate strategy. What I'd like to do today is take this opportunity to give a quick introduction to Hitachi and what it's doing to sort of set the stage for discussions about our partnerships with venture enterprises in the circular economy. So Hitachi is a diversified manufacturer that's global in its markets. About half, a little more than half of the company's business is outside of Japan now. A little less than half is inside Japan. Revenues are about $78 billion last year, with 870 subsidiary companies and 350,000 employees. The company also invests about $3 billion annually in its own R&D. And the graphic in this slide shows some of the key areas of business for Hitachi. And so you can see, just going around quickly, healthcare, water treatment, automotive technology, construction machinery, mobility, elevators, escalators, smart life and appliances, industrial equipment, and then information and telecommunication systems, which cross-cut all of our businesses now with the rise of IoT. Hitachi is also quite committed to the Sustainable Development Goals, and the leadership of Hitachi has actually been a leader in Japan on corporate commitments to SDGs. We have two levels of SDGs. SDGs which require a corporate commitment, a commitment about what the corporation is doing in its own operations, and then priority on SDGs in terms of Hitachi's business strategy. And so looking at the corporate commitment, you can see the commitment to quality of education, gender equity, decent work, responsible consumption, which is a theme of today's panel, climate action and partnership for the goals. And then under business strategy, this matches some of the principal priority business thrusts of Hitachi, which include health, clean water, affordable and clean energy, innovation, industrial innovation and infrastructure, and then sustainable cities. So today I'll focus a bit more on the SDG 12, responsible production and consumption, because this again directly addresses the circular economy. And Hitachi does this by looking at its overall value chain. So everything from procurement through development and design, production, distribution and sales, use and disposal. And the goal is to optimize the use of materials within the full value chain. So some examples of things that the company does internally include these. We work with 30,000 suppliers to the company, that is, companies in the supply chain, through Hitachi Group CSR procurement guidelines, which include also guidelines about the human rights and the business ethics. And these guidelines are also audited with our partners. Hitachi has a green procurement system, a green net, which is used to collect environmental data from suppliers. And it has internal certification activities, including Ecofactories and Offices Select certification system. As a result of these kinds of activities, internally we've had reductions in a number of our material use measures. First of all, overall, between 2010 and 2019, a 14% reduction in waste for the corporation. And then measuring 2019 against 2010, the corporation collected 15 tons of end-of-life PCs and was able to recycle 12 tons of that material, so about 80%. Company collected 86 kilotons of recyclable material from home appliances and was able to recycle 90% of that. The company also recycled 1,163 tons of plastics, which were used in parts and packing materials, and then achieved a 26% improvement in the efficiency in its use of water. And just very quickly to show what some of these things might look like, in Hitachi Metals, they were able to reduce groundwater use by recycling the cupola cooling water, and that was about a 40% reduction in groundwater use by the addition of the cooling tower. So this is shown in the graph at the bottom, where you see the prior system and then the additions for increased recyclability of the water. And then in Hitachi Global Life Solutions, they were able to reduce water use by visualizing groundwater flow. And so by measuring and then advertising to staff how much groundwater was being used, they were able to reduce groundwater consumption by 29%, which is about 29,000 individuals in Japan. A big theme for Hitachi this year is COP26, Conference of the Parties, which is meeting this November in the UK, and Hitachi has signed on as a principal partner to COP26. And Hitachi has made a number of commitments and strengthened its commitments as well to climate change. So on the left, for a low carbon society, Hitachi is committed to an 80% reduction in carbon in its full value chain by 2050 and a 50% reduction in the full value chain by 2030. I should also note that within the corporation, that is within our factories and offices, Hitachi has committed to carbon net zero, carbon neutrality by 2030. For resource efficiency, the company has set a target of 50% improvement in its use of water by 2050. And in terms of its impact on the environment or natural capital, there's a commitment to finding ways to minimize that impact as well. One example of a technology that we've rolled out very recently is a technology to assure the use of renewable energy as the company turns to clean energy. And this is a technology that combines smart meters and blockchain so that we can visualize how much renewable energy is being used on a per building basis or a per facility basis, or in a factory on a per manufacturing line basis. And this technology was rolled out just this year at this site in the picture, which is our co-creation center at Hitachi Central Research Laboratory. And finally, let me just quick review a couple of our growth areas. And you can see that these growth areas are also very consistent with the green goals of Hitachi. We have three themes on the left: environment, resilience, safety, security and safety. And in environment, you can see some of our principal thrusts, including digital grids and high voltage DC transmission, which is lower loss transmission, green mobility, here with a particular emphasis on mass transit, and then support of electric vehicles in various ways. Under resilience, public and financial services, industrial digital solutions, so smart factories, for example, and logistics and supply chain, so again, the smart supply chain. Safety and security encompasses a number of areas, but of particular interest now is our work in healthcare, and Hitachi will be increasing substantially its investment in healthcare in the coming years. So appreciate your patience, and that's my review of the company, and hopefully sets the stage for discussion about our work with ventures. Thank you.
Gerald, absolutely fascinating that Hitachi, through your eyes, you are impacting more than 30,000 companies, though they are in your supply chain, with a vision and commitment towards United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And as you mentioned, SDGs 12 is about responsible production and responsible consumption. I'm sure this approach will reach out to many more companies as well as customers. Thank you for sharing the story of Hitachi. And I now like to move on to our next phase. It gives me immense pleasure to invite Lynette Leong, Chief Sustainability Officer, Capital Land Group. I would like to invite Lynette to introduce herself as well as Capital Land Group's vision in terms of sustainability. Lynette, please.
Thank you, Prof. It's such a pleasure to be here, and thanks for having me on this panel. First, just to give you a quick introduction of myself, I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer of CapitaLand Group, and my role is to instill sustainability into CapitaLand and mainstream that into our building operations. So it consists of coming up with the strategy and policies, integrating them to our business to drive strategic environmental, social, and governance efforts, or ESG efforts, and at the same time to deliver long-term economic value to the group stakeholders. I'm also a member of CapitaLand's executive committee. I have been with CapitaLand for the past almost 14 years. And prior to this, I was the CEO of CapitaLand's commercial real estate business, and also the CEO of the Ascendus Korea operations. And as a matter of fact, Ascendus and CapitaLand merged about 2 years ago. So my role in CapitaLand is in sustainability, and the importance about sustainability is actually about the business itself. So it is no longer just a good to have in sustainability, but it is the core of everything we do in CapitaLand. So what we want to achieve is, as we grow our business, we want to grow it in a responsible manner. And at the same time, it's not just about delivering economic value to our shareholders. It is also about our stakeholders. And we need to contribute to the environmental and social well-being of our stakeholders as well. And also the communities and the that in the different countries that we operate in. Now, CapitaLand spreads over 250 cities in 38 countries. And we have a diverse portfolio, not just in geographical footprint, but in the types of properties as well. So it ranges from retail malls, office buildings, business parks, logistics centers, data centers, our service residence arm, lodging properties, residential. So it's many types of different properties, and you can imagine the types of challenges we are faced with in sustainability as well. So without integrating that into our business operations, I think it is quite impossible to achieve some of the targets we have set ourselves to doing. And I shall elaborate more later on.
Thank you, Lynette. You are really a role model. And according to our program, let me share my screen. So this panel discussion is titled Leading the Circular Economy Through Innovations and Partnerships. The Paris Agreement, which underscored 17 Sustainable Development Goals. The 17 Sustainable Development Goals are aimed towards enhancing sustainability of the current human beings as well as the future generations of human beings. What prompted sustainability thinking? It started off in 1972, a well-known name, Club of Rome, where eminent thinkers like our panel members in 1972 looked at the world, looked at the consumptions, industrialization. They asked themselves a question: can planet Earth survive and continue to provide conditions for the future generations to survive? Is there any limits to the growth? That led to 20 years later, Norwegian Prime Minister Bertland. She led a United Nations committee that released a very famous sustainability report. More recently, that is 2015, we have more than 193 countries signed up to the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. These goals, as spoken by our eminent speakers, emphasize there is a need to transition towards circular economy from the current linear economy that is pursued by nations as well as corporates around the world. Clearly, Singapore Airlines is one of the well-known high-flying company in aerospace. Sistina Capital is a huge investment organization. With investments, they change the directions of the businesses. Hitachi, leading by example, are also emphasizing that this is how we should move from linear economy to the circular economy. Absolutely, the last 15 to 20 minutes, all the three speakers have taken us through the journey of transitioning from linear economy to circular economy, ultimately leading the world towards sustainability and low carbon economy. There's a lot of young people hope to contribute, change the world. So one of the avenue available for them is through innovations, technology innovations, establishing startup companies, also looking for partnerships with the corporates like you. They like to make the difference. So I like to open the panel discussion with a question. In your experience or in your awareness, could you highlight one startup company or innovation that really produced a difference? So once we get our conversation going on that question, then I will lead you to the next question. But right now, I like to invite three esteemed panel members to share with the audience one example of innovation or a startup that really caught their attention, admiration, and they feel it produced uh, such a result. I welcome any panel member to share their thoughts. Thank you.
Prof, if I may start.
Yes,
Okay.
please. Yeah.
So recently we announced a voluntary carbon offset scheme for our passengers, of our customers across our passengers and cargo airlines. And this is in collaboration with the Australian-based Tasman Environmental Markets and using their Blue Halo solutions. This allows our customers to voluntarily offset their own carbon emission. And their contributions will help support a number of things. Okay, for example, protect the forest in Indonesia, to support renewable solar energy projects in India, and to help with clean burning cook stove for projects for rural villages in Nepal. So that's one example of how we could help. So carbon offset is a complementary role to the whole scheme of sustainability initiative and strategy that SIA has put in place. We believed, okay, that this is a measure of work in place, but what really will make move the needle for an airline, especially, is our investment in new generations of aircraft with technologies that could save 30% of fuel and have much lower carbon emission than the older generation. So SIA is in a very strong position because of our cash flow that we have raised even in this pandemic. We are very committed to invest in new technologies, aircraft technologies. That is in the aircraft area. And in terms of a startup, a local startup, for example, we are now working with Lumatics, which won an UN award recently in earlier part of this year, to look at in-flight food waste. So, I mean, we all have traveled on board Singapore Airlines before. Some of us, consume the food. Some people, all the food. Some people don't. So there's consumed and unconsumed food. So we are looking at how we could measure the in-flight food waste with Lumatics and another partner whom we have scouted through the IMDA Open Innovation Platform, to look at these two areas so that we could better serve our passengers and give them better experience, that we can analyze by flight what are our passengers' preferences, so that we have the required number of meals and types of meals available, and to give the right portions, so we reduce waste. Yeah. So these are some examples that we are doing as a whole in terms of investing in technologies, and down to the very thing about how much food is being consumed on board. Thank you.
Thank you, Manfai. I'm glad to hear that NUS startup company is able to reach your expectations. We all know Singapore Airlines has a very high standards, and meeting your standards by NUS startup company is a huge support as well as encouragement. Thank you. And I like to invite either Gerald or Edward to share their own excited examples, please.
I can go if that's okay.
Sure, please go ahead.
Okay, sure. And actually, it's an extremely tough question that you pose, Professor, because there are so many good venture companies and startups, across all industries and at all aspects of the circular economy, I think. So that's very hard. If you look at plastics, you can see lots of ventures rising on plastic recycle recovery. And one of the things about circular economy is also you want to minimize what you have to circulate, frankly. And so if you look at say just alternatives to cement that will vastly reduce impact on carbon production. As you know, the cement industry is about 8% of CO2 production. That could have a huge impact. And then there's the overall sort of digital experience that we've been through with the COVID in this COVID era, where the experiences of individuals, whether they're citizens or whether they're tenants, can be improved for their own safety as well as their own sort of life enrichment. So I think there are so many, but let me share one thing with you, if I may, that's specific to the circular economy. And I'm just going to pull up, and this is just fairly quick, but I have these two slides, and let me take my, let's see, get this up. Okay. And one activity that Hitachi has sponsored recently, and this was our water business unit along with our research and development division, was this innovation challenge for the circular economy, which is a venture challenge that was concluded in April of this year, 2021. And there were over 100 ventures that applied to this innovation challenge. And I'm just highlighting a few, the three winners, and then I'll mention some finalists as well. The three winners of this innovation challenge, and there were 44, over 100 applications from over 44 countries, so it was quite diverse. Lanzatech from Skokie, Illinois in the US, developed a biogas fermentation to produce fuel and chemical from waste. Waze from London has developed a container-type food waste recycling facility using a new technology, an electrolytic membrane bacterial reaction layer. And then Wildfire Energy from Brisbane, Australia, is producing energy and hydrogen from solid waste in also a new technology called the moving oxidant injection. So those are three of the winners. And again, one of the co-sponsors is our Water BU, so there'll be a bit of their interest colored in this. In addition, these are five of the other finalists. 2S Water from Edmonton, Canada, which develops single and multi-element sensors for industrial and municipal applications. Fly Farm from Hong Kong, which has worked on insect farming and feed production to replace the use of wild-caught fish meal in poultry and fish farming. Insecta here in Singapore, which extracts high-value biomaterials from the black soldier fly. Drupal, which is a venture in Switzerland, developing energy repurposing in a circular way for cooling processes in industrial and commercial facilities. And then Trofica in Sydney, Australia, which is working on a sustainable transformation of traditionally wasted nutrients into food and into bioproducts. So these are some examples of companies that came out of our recent competition in Hitachi. But again, there are so many. And I think there's a ton of space because you need disruption, I think, in this space to make progress. And ventures are much better at disruption, frankly, than large corporations. And so the large corporations need the creativity of the ventures in order to leapfrog and then have impact at scale, which is where the larger corporations can make a contribution.
Thank you, Gerald. I absolutely agree with you that for a company like yours, you would come across so many examples, and it's probably you won't be able to highlight all the examples, but we are very thankful that you highlighted few to touch on the imagination of the audience so that they can have a memory that These panel members are not just talking, but they actually have seen the real things, and they're actually talking about the real examples. And again, Insecta is again from NUS. So I'm not promoting NUS, but I'm glad to see that that NUS is also kind of working and promoting circular economy and sustainability. Thanks a lot for highlighting those examples across the world. It is moving from shareholder value to the stakeholder value creation. Absolutely, I think that is the future. Many of our attendees, our audience, would be either current entrepreneurs or future entrepreneurs. So these you can call techies and innovators. They like to learn from you, from your deep knowledge of the sustainability sector. How should they position so that they can be a solution to the big puzzle of sustainability?
Well, it is an honor to have come from NUS itself, and it has taught me many things. And I think I'm also very proud of the fact that there is a huge startup community that NUS Enterprise has developed. I think one of the challenges that big corporates have in working with startups is the difference in culture, I guess, and it's a lot for big corporates like ourselves have to learn as well. So I believe that there are a lot of opportunities there where startups are very nimble. They have great ideas, but there is also the part about being practical, being realistic. So I think that's where we come in, and as a result of this idea to want to accelerate sustainability, we believe that innovation and partnerships and collaboration are very important. So with that in mind, we actually launched Capital Land Sustainability X Challenge, an inaugural one, and that was completed a month ago. We invited submissions from all over the world. Now, this was the first time that a real estate company in Singapore has launched this in such a major way. And our idea is to crowdsource solutions from all over the world. Because we believe that there may be a lot of solutions out there. And we're very pleased that we have received 270 entries from more than 25 countries, many of which were from Singapore. And from there, then what the intention was that we wanted to pilot the solutions at our properties. Now, because of the diversity of different property types and geographical footprint, we have different sandboxes for the innovators, for the technopreneurs to be able to pilot their solutions. And from there, if there is a business case, if the solutions are successful, then there's the opportunity to scale them up into to our different properties around the world. So that was the opportunity we were offering them. At the same time, we also engaged a lot of different partners, ranging from industry experts and to business coaches, to help them to refine their business cases, to help them to pitch their ideas well. And at the same time, we also made available different publicity platforms for them, such as the Ecosperity, which is an annual event for sustainability that is organized by Temasek. So through the Sustainability X Challenge, that was our first time doing that. And so we actually had 2 finalists. I beg your pardon. It was 6 finalists that we chose, and it was chosen from the result of subject matter experts, both internally as externally, coming together to evaluate each of the submissions. And we're very pleased that NUS was one of our subject matter experts. We also had professionals from the Building Construction Authority as well as the National Environment Agency. So they had very stringent criteria, selected them, and so 6 finalists, which had a chance to pitch against each other in a live broadcast, beamed to more than 25 countries, and more than 700 people actually viewed it live stream. And from there, we selected the solutions. 2 solutions were selected. But and to encourage everybody, now we're actually piloting 10 solutions. In addition to the 2, we are piloting an additional 8 because we feel that there are solutions that are very promising. So we want to encourage startups to continue to come to us and participate in this challenge. Now, our plan is to hold this on a regular basis. It is a signature event. So please look out for our announcements.
Well, thank you, Lynette, for the very helpful information about the Sustainability X Challenge. And also, we are very proud of you. You are our proud alumni. And also like to say that NUS Enterprise, I was the initial founding director 20 years ago. And since then, as you said, NUS Enterprise spawned many startup companies. But I think what makes these startups to flourish, as you put so nicely, they need mentors, they need domain experts. And you said that Capital Land, through this sustainability challenge, provides those mentorship and also right people to curate the ideas, pilot the ideas, provide the necessary support, is absolutely music to all the budding entrepreneurs from NUS as well as the rest of the world. Edward, would you like to tell us any exciting things that you came across?
Just like Gerard, I'm actually conflicted because there are so many good examples. But personally, I have 2. One of them is actually longboats. This is actually one of the up-and-coming European startups who are actually involved in actually reducing the waste of mattresses. And the other one is actually one of our portfolio company over in India. It's called From Market. This is a 4-year-old company. We invested in them 2 years ago. And the market space that they are in is actually in the built environment, right? And we all know that built environment is actually also a fertile place for a lot of innovations to be happening in order to help to reduce some of the wastes and energy. So in a very short period of time, after we invested in them, this is their 4th year. They have already a unicorn, and Sequoia earlier this year have just invested a huge amount of money in them to actually help to speed up their scale of expansions and also to increase the rate of innovations. And I'm sure that one of the key areas that actually attracted big funds, whether they're venture capital funds or corporate funds, is actually that the companies like them actually pays a premium in sustainability and also climate controls. And some of the examples is that they, for a long time, they have been actually helps in educations. So the SDG 4 is actually talking about the talents and the educations about sharing this. And over in India itself, which is a big issues because education is actually not really very even. And they have to spend not only their personal times of the co-founders, but also to show leaderships within the communities and as well as the broader communities in order to drive certain changes in attitudes. And the built environments is a sector that is very, very challenging because you're dealing with contractors, you're dealing with real estate developers. You're dealing with many of these people who are living from day to day, who are drawing not only daily wages but also weekly wages at sometimes. So having so much short-term pressures in lives, right, for them to actually, to forego some of these immediate benefits for something that is really, really far away, such as the SDG goals, is really very, very difficult. So I would like to share both of these companies because the two of them are doing very, very well in helping to solve the problems through innovations and by working with many, many partners.
Thank you, Edward. In fact, that's part of my lectures at the National University of Singapore. I teach about what contributes to the largest amount of carbon emissions. And recently, United Nations Environment Program, International Resource Panel released a report which says 23% of the global emissions comes out of the materials. And among so many materials, built environment and a transport, which is basically the personal transport, contributes a lion's share of material-related emissions. So I'm very sure the startups or innovations you have highlighted in the built environmental space, trying to improve the circular economy, sustainability, or toward zero waste. Absolutely. That's in line with what the world wants a change across the different regions. And I think even Singapore has announced 2019 toward zero waste plan. A major focus has been how to improve the emissions that are coming from the major sectors of the economy. Absolutely. So in view of the time, what I thought was I would kind of turn things around from the point of audience. Question would be, who are our audience? NUS Enterprise tells me there are thousands of audience. They look for this InnovFest every year, and it's widely attended, or more number of eyes look at what we say, more ears are there to hear us. And so if we look at the composition of the audience, there would be a large proportion who are the startup companies. The other ones, people like you who are corporate, successful, and sharing the wisdom to the others and leading by example. And the third group is youngsters beginning to think what I need to do about my life, and they also would have questions. So we go around 3 rounds, basically I want to connect you with the audience subgroups. So first group would be existing startup companies. They're not corporates like you guys. The question is, they are the startups, lots of energy, a lot of hope. How can they partner with the corporates like you? So maybe from your own expectation, you could say, I like to see something like this from you, so that it makes the corporate to have a closer, more partnership with the startups. So please explain to the startup company CEO, what would you like to see, from the startup CEO as a corporate person leading by example?
If you allow me to start, I will answer in a minute, and we'll of course use a slide to illustrate my point. I'd say that, let's see, we have this up. Okay. So for us, it's, again, Hitachi is a diversified manufacturer. So we have innovation needs across many sectors. I'll give this as an example, which is the smart city services, because this is an area where partnerships are absolutely essential. There's no single company that can deliver all of the services that different cities or estates would like to have. And so it begins at the core, as this graph shows, with data analytics, data intake, with the platform that you're using to manage that data, with the services, the smart service verticals, that is it energy, is it waste, is it transportation, and then the kind of service you're creating. But if you radiate out in this way, there are many kinds of innovations that serve different services that are essential in cities and estates. Integrated maintenance, for example, smart waste, smart parking, smart energy, everything smart, smart water and wastewater, smart security. And in addition, I would add on top of that, the new digital services to improve tenant experiences, and anything related, of course, to fintech and finance. So the diversity is huge if you think about how to address these needs. No company can do it. Hitachi, is fundamentally now an open innovation company, but very much interested in partnerships to address these broader kinds of social challenges. So this would be one example.
Please allow me
Thank
to.
you, Gerald.
Yeah.
Manfai, please.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so please allow me to talk about Chris Lab and Singapore Airlines. So Chris Lab, like I mentioned, is a collaboration driver between our internal business units and our external innovation partners. They could be our ecosystem partners, like our ground handlers or startups. So one of the platforms where we engage with the startup economy is our app challenge. The startup category has closed last month, and we have a challenge statement on tracking packaging waste with our supply chain partners. And we are looking through the submissions at the moment, and I look forward to hearing those who have made an impact and impression. And the finals is in September. We also publish our problem statements in other platforms like Singapore Aviation Accelerator, where we partner with Starburst Accelerator and the IMDA Open Innovation Platform. So this is how we reach out to the startups to address a number of key issues around sustainability, whether it's renewable energy, whether it's sustainable packaging products and upcycling and recycling of plastics and things like that from the aircraft. So these are the areas. The other avenue is really to hear from the startups, the interesting things and exciting things that they are doing that may resonate with what we are looking at, our focus and our strategies. So to do that, it'll be fairly important to recognize and understand the airline and aviation industry's pain points. And that can be seen from what we publish online, our sustainability commitments and our sustainability reports. So working with startups from experience, the very important thing is an alignment of expectations, what the corporate expects and what the startup expects. So it's like a great marriage. Communication of capabilities and needs and mutual respect of each other's position, because corporates are never going to be like startups and startups are never going to be like corporates. And like I said, alignment of expectations so that you'll be a great marriage and beneficial to both parties. And that will be my advice and counsel to the startup founders and innovators. Thank you.
Thank you, Manfai, for sharing your wisdom to the startup founders. So on this note, I like to ask you is Capital Land Group is a very large company. It's a corporate. So a corporate solve big problems. And of course, corporates needs cooperation with other corporates. So what would be your advice in terms of how corporates can come together to solve this biggest challenge faced by the humanity, what we call climate change, or we can also say sustainability. Your thoughts, please, in terms of how corporates can work together.
Prof, actually, I think a very good way is a forum like this where we have different conversations. And so I want to thank you for organizing this and bringing different parties together. From the built environment perspective, we deal with challenges which are not typical for many other industries. So we have actually set up a lab called the Smart Urban Co-Innovation Lab at the Singapore Science Park 2. The idea is to really get different companies to collaborate and come with solutions. The collaboration can be between us and different companies, and as well as among themselves. So the idea is not restricted to just solutions that are only applicable to us, but for the whole real estate sector. So here is really to benefit everybody. And at the same time, we're hoping that even the startups can participate in them and to see how big companies operate and can grow along with them. So this becomes another big sandbox for different companies to collaborate together. I think having sandboxes are important, and we're hoping that it's either using our properties as sandboxes or others that may want to come alongside in this collaboration.
Wow, very good. Thanks, Lynette. Edward, how would you make your investment about the startup founders?
Yeah, um, I think to all the founders out there, or to the young people who are actually thinking about what they want to do in the next 5 to 10 years, I would strongly advise them, right, go green, because the pandemics have shown us that the term global village, which is a term that's invented about 30 years ago, right, have never seemed so surreal and so present right now. The world have never once, right, over the last 30 years, felt that we are all in the same stage. We're all having the same problem at the same time. And all of us are all struggling with the pandemic as we go along, and possibly in the next few years. But this public health crisis that the world is facing is very much a health issue as much as it is a climate and global issues. And interestingly, many people, whether they're young or sustainability champions like myself, have all this start to change our attitudes. Many consumers in the next few decades will be only embracing and buying products that have a green labels. They will only be supporting companies, whether they are tech startups or corporates, and asking them questions like, how much carbon footprints are you contributing? Are you actually doing something to help the world? They'll be asking questions like this. So the consumers and the corporate behaviors will change dramatically. Whatever we have learned in 2019 and earlier is no longer the same. In the tech field, we call this a disruptions. And this disruption is of the epic proportions. In the fields of venture capitalists, I myself is a young lecturer in Beijing University for private equities and venture capital. We have been promoting inclusion of ESG's metrics and also sustainability goals for the good 4 to 5 years. But it's only last year and this year that we found the inclusions and the adoptions by fund managers and private equities operators to be skyrocketed high. And it's very obvious because the VCs wants to invest in tech startups, in innovations that is helping to build the next world. And the next world is actually a green world, because everywhere in the world, irregardless of your nationalities, we are seeing increased numbers of forest fires. We are seeing higher levels of hurricanes. We are seeing that our climates have changed, and there's a lot more heat waves, a lot more tsunamis happening at a frequency that is unprecedented. And the world over the last 35 years have moved from debating whether global warming is a real scenario to right now accepting the fact that the world has become warmer. And actually, many people are coming together and rallying behind companies, innovators, including schools like NUS, and business thought leaders such as Professor Surams, who are leading all the thoughts and the discussions to improving and uplifting the circular economy. And hopefully we can help to save this world while we are still around.
Thank you, Edward, for such an inspirational message. And I have lots of questions because I'm a professor, right? Naturally, I'll have lots of questions. But the event organizer said, Professor, your panel is fantastic, but your time is limited. So I like to take this opportunity. And I just want to summarize in this way. It's clear from Edward that he indicated that the world needs to go circular and we need to move from linear economy to the circular economy. And it is on the part of the youngsters and young CEOs and founders take the leap and change the world. And we really hope we're extremely thankful. You are very busy people. Despite that, you given your time, even your mind share and your experiences. We are extremely thankful to you, and we hope to continue to connect with you and seek your guidance so that our young future and current entrepreneurs and budding entrepreneurs can benefit from your wisdom, experience, and connections. Thank you again. Thank you.